I don't want no oil, a spoil in my shoreline. I like fish much better than crud. I like birds and things a-creeping and crawling. Won't trade no more oil for blood. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. No nukes!
Good morning, Toledo. Good afternoon, Columbus, and good evening, Bowling Green. My name is Joe DeMare, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host,
Rebecca Wood.
And together, Rebecca and I are going to create an unforgettable hour of radio called For a Green Future. For a Green Future is a show where we talk about ecology and the environment, and we talk about them in the ways that they affect you, your wealth, your health, your happiness, and the wealth and health and happiness of your friends and coworkers, and the birds in the trees, and the fish in the streams, and the cicadas, and the crows, fungi, and the whales, and pretty much everyone and everything. Because, like it or not, we're all wrapped up together on this wonderful little planet called Earth. We have another wonderful show for you today. We're just going to chat for the next 10 minutes or so. Then we have an interview with Todd Duvall with the organization Clean Streams. They do an annual cleanup of waterways all over Northwest Ohio in September, and they have an anniversary coming up very shortly. Then we'll hear from our wonderful, wonderful patrons. And after that, it'll be Rebecca's turn at the mic. Rebecca, what will we be talking about this week?
Good thing you mentioned fungi, because I'm going to be talking about giant puffballs.
Ooh, very tasty. I hope you're going to talk about that.
I will.
Looking forward. After that, it'll be ecological news from around the world, and that'll be our show. This is a pre-recorded show, so you can't call in, but you can still participate by sending us a text at 419-973-5841 or an email to joe@joedemare4greenfuture.org, or you can find us on social media. We love hearing from you. You can also comment on the show on our YouTube channel, and liking and commenting on a YouTube video helps us to beat the algorithms that keep people like us down. If you're someone who regularly downloads the video version, consider giving us a like and a comment, or find us on the podcast streaming services where we're hosted, including our usual service, Podomatic. Those of you joining us on video this week might notice that I'm in a different venue than usual, and Rebecca's in a different location. I'm actually on the road. I'm traveling from Denver back to Bowling Green, Ohio. So we're recording today's episode using Zoom. It's a very long drive, and looking at nature along the way is one of the best ways to get through it. Whenever you see a wild animal out your car window along these long drives, it's just a reminder that, you know, there's actually life outside of a car, of a vehicle. Yesterday I saw a prairie dog along the side of the road, stopped at a red light, still in Colorado, and it actually looked directly at me. Or, you know, that's
wow.
Yeah, a little cool. And then it, you know, did its little prairie dog thing, chirp, and ran away. And, you know, it's surprising the variety of animals you can see. On a previous road trip, I've seen an eagle. I'm not sure it was a bald eagle, maybe a red-tailed hawk, actually carrying a fish above the highway, flying over my car. I'll always never forget that. But right now it's mid-August, and summer is actually already thinking about winding down. The sun is setting earlier and earlier. There's still time for some heat waves, but at least for now, temperatures are moderate. One thing we're getting plenty of in Northwest Ohio is rain. We're getting some torrential downpours over the past week. Tiffin, Ohio saw 5.5 inches of rain in 24 hours back on August 12th, and Columbus had localized flooding. Darke County had 4.5 inches. None of these rain events were truly catastrophic like we've seen in other places, but they're all what has been predicted as a result of global warming. Heating up the planet causes both droughts and torrents of rain. The reason is pretty simple. Air that has a higher percentage of carbon dioxide can hold more water vapor. So water evaporates faster, which exacerbates droughts. And then when it finally does rain, there's so much more water to come out of the atmosphere that it creates a different problem. Another change that was predicted with global warming that is actually happening is increasing nighttime temperatures. There's a story on August 7th, 2024 in climatecentral.org that was titled, "Climate Change is Increasing Dangerous Nighttime Temperatures Across the Globe. Billions of people are experiencing at least 2 additional weeks per year with nighttime temperatures over 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And this has had a direct impact on human health, both from the heat and from the lack of sleep." An article in nature.com published June 22nd of this year, 2026, says that the hottest nights of the year are actually warming faster than the hottest days. Since the early 1900s, when records began, nights have been warming at about 1/3 of a degree centigrade across a decade, each decade, while days are warming at about 1/4 of a degree centigrade each decade. So if you listen to this show, you most likely do not need convincing that global warming is real. We can literally feel the difference on our skins as both daytime and nighttime get hotter. In fact, almost all Americans accept the idea of global warming. Polls consistently show 75 to 80% of Americans believe man-made, human-caused global warming is happening. But of course, there's one very prominent American who does continue to deny it. I'm talking about our president, Donald J. Trump. I want to talk a little bit about his technique of doubling down on outrageous falsehoods like global warming denial.
He looks kind of like a fungus himself, too.
Yeah, he spreads his spores everywhere. And, you'll probably talk about this. Humid weather is beneficial for fungus in general, so
yes,
helping him out too.
There you go.
Doubling down, of course, is a term that comes to us from the world of gambling. According to vocabulary.com, the phrase has only been around since 1949. In blackjack, it means that after you look at your first 2 cards, you double your bet and agree to take only one more card. Okay. In a blackjack game, it's a very dramatic move. People watching the game will hold their breath to see if the player who doubles down actually wins or just goes bust. Unfortunately, that practice of the dramatic pause while we wait and see if doubling down succeeds has carried over into the public discourse. While campaigning for the 2026 election, Trump doubled down on the idea that global warming is a hoax. And rather than challenging him on it, the mainstream media waited to see if his bold strategy of lying would succeed in getting him reelected. It did. So from a certain point of view, you could say that he won. And that's common with mainstream media in general. They've been very soft and not call people out on the obvious falsehoods that the people they report on spew. But of course, the reality that happened during Trump's campaign was that we all lost. Trump has continued to enact policies based on that huge lie, that global warming isn't real. Just this past week, there was another announcement of another $1.5 billion buyout of an offshore wind lease. Trump's official policy is to push fossil fuels while blocking renewables like wind and solar. He doubled down on a lie, but rather than calling him out, the media takes a wait-and-see attitude to see if the lie will fly. This is one of the reasons we're heading for disaster as a society. No one questions Trump on his massive lie about global warming, even as the Earth is literally burning down around us. Somehow, because he doubled down, we all just have to accept his outrageously false premise. Global warming is literally the biggest crisis facing the world today. Trump should be facing questions about it every time he has a press conference or speaks to the press at all. Instead, it's simply accepted that he's going to deny reality, even as the vast majority of us know the truth. And a deliberate lie is like purposefully planting weeds or maybe fungi in the gardens of our minds. Suddenly, our garden this year is overrun with weeds, with all the projects we've had going on. The tall grass, lamb's quarters, and pigweed are choking out our tomatoes and beets. But even in a weed-filled garden, you can still have some sweet harvests. Just this morning, we managed to harvest half a dozen beautiful tomatoes. It's not a big as harvest as we would have liked if we were taking better care of the garden, but it's still something. And this show is kind of like that tomato plant that is somehow managing to thrive in a weed-filled garden. We really strive every week to bring you the sweet fruit of truth, despite a media environment which is deliberately full of weeds. One of the prime examples of this is the almost universal adoration of nuclear power in the media. Back on July 19th, Lazard released its Levelized Cost of Energy report. It shows, once again, that renewables, in this case wind and solar, are by far the least expensive form of new energy. And utility-scale wind and solar are up to 7 times cheaper than nuclear. Nuclear power is, in fact, by far the most expensive form of energy, costing up to 7 times as much as utility-scale wind and solar. However, the nuclear promotion industry has doubled down on a fantastic lie. They claim that if you take the initial construction costs of a nuclear power plant and space it out over 100 years, then magically nuclear becomes cheaper than renewables. But that kind of thinking is literally insane. Putting aside the fact that you can apply that train of thought to any project or any costs at all, the internal structure of nuclear power plants are constantly being bombarded with radioactive particles. This weakens the metal and crumbles concrete. No nuclear plant has ever lasted more than 60 years, and the average lifespan of a nuclear plant without severe reconstruction is only 40 years. This also ignores the ongoing costs of maintenance and fuel needed to run the nuclear plants. The cost of uranium has been going through the roof since the Western countries are finally beginning to move away from using Russian uranium. For most of the Ukrainian war, Russia's sales of fuel for nuclear power plants has not faced any sanctions, and Putin has been gleefully pocketing the money for buying his bombs and tanks. But since the pro-nuke propagandists have doubled down, they now gleefully flood social media with the lie that nuclear power is the cheapest form of energy. They never explain that it's only cheapest if you don't count fuel and maintenance costs and assume that nuclear power plants can operate for over a century without breaking down. And it's also worth repeating, again, the fact that there have been no nuclear power plants that have been completed on time and on budget. All things break down. That's a fundamental law of physics. Entropy is inescapable, and everything we make or build eventually breaks down. Our next guest has firsthand experience with this. Todd Duvall organizes an annual cleanup of the waterways around Northwest Ohio. Every year, volunteers clean up our rivers, lakes, and streams, pulling out all kinds of trash and broken things that have been discarded, like bicycles, scooters, or shopping carts. It's a great way for volunteers to do some hands-on cleaning of the environment. Let's go to that interview with Todd now.
All right. Hello and welcome to For a Green Future. Could you please share with us your name and who you're with?
My name is Todd Duvall. I am the Executive Director at Partners for Clean Streams in Perrysburg, Ohio. We've been around for about 20 years, and yeah.
In fact, that's why I kind of reached out to you folks. You actually, it's coming up on your anniversary, right?
Yeah, as an organization ourselves, we've been around for about 20 years, but outside of that, we've actually loosely held organized cleanup in Northwest Ohio called Clean Your Streams. And this year is actually going to be our 30th consecutive year doing that. So for the first 10 years before PCS was formed, before the work that we do now, which is a lot broader and we can get into later, before that was kind of formalized, we've been doing this cleanups, and this year will be our 30th year.
All right. And where are you going to be cleaning up this year?
So the nice thing about Clean Your Streams and our big event, which is going to be September 26th, I'll probably end up saying that like 5 or 10 times during this.
Okay.
But it involves all Northwest Ohio. It is not just a one location thing. Last year, we had a total of 759 volunteers that participated. This is all over Northwest Ohio. And we had 61 unique and different sites. So we had different groups that went all over. Some of the sites we have this year are University of Toledo, one's Monroe Street, United Methodist Church in downtown Toledo there. One's over at the Oregon Municipal Building. Another one's West Winds Metro Park in Sylvania. We also got another kickoff location in downtown, one in Sidecut, in Maumee, another one in Perrysburg, and another one all the way out in Defiance. So between all these different locations, we'll have different groups that will kind of collect there. And then from there, go out to unique sites. Like I said, last year we had 61. I'm not sure. The cool thing about this is a lot of the site captains and people that have been involved for years and decades really have, over the year, zoned in where they want to go. And this is a very much volunteer and community-led effort, which reflects on all the different sites that we're going. And if any of those sites that I said are close to you, I'd encourage you to reach out. And I'd encourage anyone who this thought or the idea of kind of cleaning up, especially cleaning up the streams and our waterways, our website, partnersforcleanstreams.org, is a great place to get as much information as possible.
So what would someone who was volunteering with you folks on that date, September 26th, what would they experience? What would they expect if they showed up at one of these locations?
So there's a lot of different levels to participate. Base level, just show on up. We provide the organization, we provide the leadership, we provide, okay, we're going to this site. We'll even give you a ride. It's up to the site captain usually, but we have gloves, we'll have trash bags, we'll have, basically all you need to do is show up and just be present and just want to do it. And it's a fun thing because you usually meet some really cool people doing it. That's base level. If you want to interact more, if you actually want to lead a cleanup in your area or your neighborhood, our website, we have full registration and it goes through every single aspects of this. That would be a great resource to see if you want to start leading one, or we can reach out to our program coordinator and kind of see how you can help that, or what other levels of participation you can help with. The great thing about it is we kind of spread out all over all in Northwest Ohio, but we all coalesce at a picnic afterwards over at Lucas County Fairgrounds. So, though it's a spread out situation, we all kind of come together and just talk about it. We have a picnic. We have a competition for whoever picked up as much marine debris as possible and who got the biggest, most unique things, and just stories, and just nurturing kind of the community around trying to make our watersheds cleaner every single year. So it's a whole event, and really base level. And I would encourage everyone, just show up, just sign up and say, hey, I'll be there. And that's all you really need to do. Just be willing to work, willing to help out.
So this is the sort of the big thing you folks do every year, but you do quite a bit of other things, don't you? You sort of touched on that. What other sorts of activities is your organization involved in?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. To understand what Partners for Clean Streams does would probably take a bit longer, but man, to give it a quick overview. So we have held this event, like I said, for 30 years. But we also do a lot of other events year round. We do small cleanups where we organize with corporations, churches, schools, all the way from elementary kids all the way up to any age, anyone who wants to participate. We do those year round. We have our program coordinator will pick a site, and when people come in and say, hey, I have a group, we usually will lead it. We'll give assistance with materials and clean up anything to kind of cover cleaning up everything after it's done, like disposal, gloves, data collection, because we do collect data on everything we do. That helps justify the grants and the money that we do get for this stuff. So we do cleanups year round, and that's all over Northwest Ohio, both Lucas County, Wood County, Henry County, and all the way over to Fulton County. But we also do water monitoring. We have a citizen science kind of program where we have water monitoring kits. We go to all the watersheds in the area with Maumee, Swan Creek, Portage, 10 Mile Creek, and Ottawa, and we actually test the water quality, and these are all community and volunteer led as well. We have another program where we actually called Reel In and Recycle, where you've probably seen it if you walk around Sidecut or downtown Toledo. We have bins where if you find a fishing line, you pick up that fishing line, put it in there, and we actually end up separating the lead and the hooks from the line, and then that fishing line, that plastic nylon fishing line, actually gets sent out and recycled instead of just being added to a landfill.
So that's you folks, huh? I always assumed that was just the park district. Huh, that's cool.
Well, yeah, the great thing about our name, Partners for Clean Stream, is the first thing we really go after is partnering with people. And so we partner with the Metro Parks, we partner with the city of Maumee, you name it. And we're here to kind of have partnerships in the area, collect and come up with people that want to help out in all different facets of it. So I was thinking of the word coalesce, but I don't know if that's entirely correct, I guess. But I mean, being partners for so many different aspects of our watersheds and thinking about our future is what we do. That's first and foremost.
Well, and I was looking at your mission statement there, where you're talking about you're trying to achieve high quality natural environment and waterways that are clean, clear, and safe. Struck me that what you do is sort of universally appealing, right? That you're kind of, going across political spectrums, across economic levels. I don't see anybody kind of disagreeing with what you folks are trying to do.
Well, Partners for Clean Streams, when it was set up, and in our bylaws, and just from the onset, we're looking for data. We're a data centered nonprofit. Or you look at amount of trash collected. We look at amount of people that are impacted. And that's our baseline. We're looking to kind of unite, not around politics, not around anything that could divide, but really unite around, hey, I think water affects us all. I mean, I would like to meet someone who water isn't a big part of their life. Because last time I checked, what are we, like 76, 60%, maybe even 80% water? Our bodies are.
Something around there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we're all we're greatly affected by water, and that directly connects to our watersheds and the whole water cycle itself. And because of that, um, there is no one person or no one group that needs to be left off of the conversation. And that's part of what we do, connecting with everyone and anyone, education, outreach, and also giving communities and neighborhoods just ownership of the local watershed, ravine, creek, stream, you name it in their area, instead of going, hey, that's just a big dumping ground. Hey, maybe we can get together, clean it up, take pride in it, and next thing you know, I mean, partnering with the metro parks in Toledo has been a huge thing, and they do so much positive work in the area, and so much of it revolves around taking areas that have been neglected, especially waterways. You look around Swan Creek and Ottawa Creek, and taking those and creating walkable wild spaces for people to enjoy, instead of where what often happens is trash gets dumped.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with us. It starts with the community ownership of those spaces.
So you talk about the data you're collecting, and I know you might not be able to answer this because I'm guessing every year is different, but have you seen trends? I mean, does it seem like there's more trash over the years, less trash? Has it stayed about the same?
So I will say this, trash is an ongoing thing. Whether it's increasing or decreasing, I would say it's always increasing, because that's just the world we live in. But what's also increasing with that is the awareness of what this trash does. And this isn't just at a micro level. If you look at a general area and say, man, I go to this place and there's trash everywhere, like this city or town, but also on a micro level, microplastics and the effect on our health, that awareness and the importance of understanding what this trash does when it breaks down in the sun and out in the elements, and it turns into microplastics, and how that affects fish and stuff like that. That awareness is increasing. One of the things that I've heard time and time again with people that volunteer for our organization and do cleanups afterwards, they come back and they go, you guys have ruined me. I can't go outside now and walk by a piece of trash. I have to pick it up. I have to put it in a trash can if I see it. And that is growing, I think, faster than litter is growing. And I think that's the best we can achieve. Can we control every single part of plastic manufacturing, usage? I think no, but we can create awareness, and we can give people the mentality that, oh yeah, if I do pick this up, throw it away, it does have an effect, not just for that person there, which is small, but for everyone in the future that uses those spaces. Like, if you think about going to a national park, you think about going to really a metro park in Toledo, nothing's going to take you out of enjoyment of that faster than cans, trash blowing along. So if you take that, and if it bothers you enough to pack it in your backpack, throw it in a trash can, you're making that space better for someone else. It's a selfless act, that awareness of being selfless, and what this plastics also do in our environment, that is growing ever much. And I think that's a testament to organizations like this, our history, but also there's so many different organizations in Northwest Ohio and in the country and in the world that focus on water. I think water is an immensely important thing. And I think once people realize how important it is, you can't shake it.
All right. Well, any unusual things come to mind that your teams have found over the years? Any?
Well, there's always the tires of many different sizes. When you go into a river and you and a couple other people on your team or volunteer group have to pull out a semi-truck tire out of a watershed, that creates unity. And that's also a memory that sticks with you a long time. That's part of the team bonding stuff that happens just from doing this type of work. But man, semi-truck tires, sofas, refrigerators, bikes. There's old bottles that we always find, bottles from like the 70s, because glass doesn't really deteriorate, so it just kind of sits there, and those are always kind of unique. But yeah, those are the kind of the things that stand out right now to me. But there's always unique stuff, and there's always the work done to pull out these things that I think last longer than what the object actually is. That bond right there.
Well, that's about all we have time for. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity, Joe, to kind of come on this program and just kind of talk about what we do, talk about our passion just for Northwest Ohio. Northwest Ohio is so greatly affected by the watersheds in the area, both due to the history of it being a swamp and also how the watersheds and the Great Lakes affect us and the region we live in. The volunteers that work with us are instrumental in our work. And for the past 20, 30 years, all appreciation and all kind of positive things come from that partnership and with the organizations, but with the volunteers. So I would just encourage anyone, if they kind of enjoy the waterways, enjoy going out to the river, and just want to increase your awareness of how to keep our natural environments and our waterways healthy for those people behind us, those people in the future, take part in our Save the Date, our Clean the Streams event, and save the date for that. It's going to be September 26th, coming up in about a month and a half. And you can go to our website, partnersforcleanstreams.org. There's tons of information on there. It'll link you to registration. And yeah, this is just a great opportunity. And Joe, you having a kind of some time and a program that really focuses on kind of green and sustainable stuff is an awesome resource. So this is a great opportunity, and I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
All right, that's it.
All right, Todd. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was our interview. I hope you enjoyed it. It's always nice to find people that are connected to our local community and doing things that impact us personally here in Northwest Ohio. Now we come to a part of the show that I enjoy every week, and that is thanking our patrons. Our patrons are fantastic people, intelligent, caring, the sort of people that you enjoy meeting and treasure knowing. And all they had to do to become patrons was go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com. There they searched for a Green Future. Up popped our Patreon page. And then they scrolled through the different patronage options. They either picked one that fit their budget or they made their own. And now every month a little bit comes out of their accounts and comes over to us. And that's how we can afford to keep this show on the air. So thank you to our patrons. Okay, Rebecca, now it's your turn to take over the show. What are we talking about today?
Okie dokie. Well, lately it has been raining a lot in Northwest Ohio, probably some other places too. And therefore, in the Five Points neighborhood, there have been a lot of mushrooms popping up. And they mostly look like the same kind. They're big, they're white. I don't actually think they're puffballs because I think they have stems, but everybody mowed them down too quick for me to be sure about that. So anyway, one of the major types of mushrooms from Northwest Ohio that they sort of resemble is giant puffballs. So I'm doing giant puffballs, which they may or may not actually be. Giant puffballs are called Calvadia gigantea. They appear in the late summer and autumn. Check. And they grow up on meadows, lawns, and fields, and sometimes one source said the edges of forests, and they can get as big as a soccer ball or larger. They are edible, but don't eat any mushrooms unless you are really, really sure what they are.
Yes.
And they have white skin, which turns brown, sort of brownish yellow with age, or it gets, at least kind of brownish yellow markings, like you were cooking a casserole or something when it starts to get done. So yeah, you also want to slice them down the center to make sure that they are dense and white all the way through, as opposed to, because if they have any yellow, green, or brownness or sponginess, this means they are full of mature spores,
right?
Which can give you tummy troubles, apparently. So you don't want that. They're also very similar, besides the fact that in general, you should not eat mushrooms if you don't know what they are for sure. They're also very similar to toxic amanitas and scleroderma mushrooms. So they're a little bit tricky. And they like to grow in nutrient-rich soil, although one source also said that they have a fairly wide range of soil that they can't grow in. They just like the nutrient-dense ones better. There we go. So yeah, some of the ecological benefits is that they are saprotrophic decomposers. Saprotrophic decomposers. Expialidocious. Which means that they eat dead stuff, dead particles out of the soil. So when something dies, after whatever, the predators have a go at it, and then the scavengers like vultures and stuff, and then the smaller stuff getting down to worms and things. After that, when it's very, very small, the mushrooms will come along and suck the particles up. And they're good because they help break down dead organic matter and recycle the nutrients back into the soil so that other plants can benefit from them. So they like good soil and they make it better. They have root-like structures called mycelial networks that hold soil particles together and also improve soil aeration and water retention, all good things. And the decayed fruiting bodies, after they're done releasing their spores and whatnot, create concentrated patches of fertilizer. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So they're good. If you see them on your lawn, they're good for it. The spore clouds actually can cause rain, which can be beneficial. And they keep too many of the mushrooms from accumulating in one area because nature's all about balance. You don't want things clumped up all together. They're not actually globally threatened or endangered, or really even locally to speak of, but they have some ecological challenges. I looked up drawbacks ecologically. They don't really have any, just some stuff they do is inconvenient to humans. That's really it. But yeah, some of the problems they have are habitat loss from agriculture, because plowing and tilling destroy the mycelial networks underground, and other things you do to the soil for harrowing, probably. I should ask my dad. He's ex-farm boy. He knows all the stuff that goes on with soil. But yeah, they're destroyed by fertilizers and fungicide, which aren't good for them, and also urban development, or urban or suburban is bad because, or even exurban, because mowing also disrupts them, which is pretty much what happened in my neighborhood. For a few days there were just giant mushrooms everywhere. They grew really, really fast, and then they all got cut down because they were mowed. Or in some
Yeah.
cases, maybe people stomped on them to see if they were puffballs. I don't know. They also have a lot of trouble with droughts because, mushrooms, dampness, you always see them after rain. And some invasive species can be a little bit of a challenge to them by changing the soil chemistry in ways they don't like or crowding them out of open grassy spaces. And they can also have some fungal competitors, which are invasive and or they're often misidentified as toxic mushrooms, and people get rid of them for that reason because they look like some toxic mushrooms, as I mentioned. Also, interestingly, they create fairy rings, which are fun. And,
Yes.
and if they're ripe enough, like if they got the brown and the yellow on the outside, if you step on them, they'll go poof dramatically.
Yes.
Which is
very fun. Yeah.
It is. It's just indescribably fun. It's really good.
You can tell, when a puffball is ready to do that because the skin is wrinkly. You can just pick it up and squirt spores at people.
Yeah, because it's so disappointing if they don't poof like that. So that's important. So on that note, we will go to ecological news. Our first story comes to us from Cleveland. On August 4th, signalcleveland.com published a story entitled Electric Bills Hit New Highs Across Ohio, State Data Shows. It turns out that the average electric bill around the state of Ohio increased 12% from July 2025 to July 2026. They've increased 62% since July 2015. Several utilities hit record high average electric bills. In Cleveland, the monthly bill is $189, Dayton $188, and Akron $184. These were all-time record highs for these cities. I'm assuming these are averages. Most of the large cities in Ohio hit near record highs. Columbus was 198, Toledo 175, and Cincinnati 171. These are all the prices for using 900 kilowatt hours of electricity. This is considered to be an average household use. Most of the increase seems to have come from generation costs. That is the cost of actually generating the power. The other two parts of an electric bill, transmission and delivery, increased, but not nearly so much. As of 2022, according to the Ohio Public Utilities Commission, the largest source of electricity generation in Ohio was natural gas, making up 46.6%. Coal is next with 24%, followed by nuclear with about 18%, and renewables with 8.3%. Toledo was still burning oil for a significant amount of its electricity, 3.5%. 4 years later, the percentages generated by gas, coal, and nuclear versus renewables have hardly changed. Gas is now 46%, coal 20%, nuclear is down to 10%, while renewables have actually declined to only 7%. This is all the direct result of policies and legislation passed by Republican-controlled state government. Many of our representatives and senators in the state government are actually in the fracking and natural gas industries. They have consistently effectively outlawed wind and solar while making it easier and easier for natural gas and coal. In other words, like President Trump, they have doubled down on the lie that we should not move away from carbon generation. However, like all lies, maintaining it has real-world consequences, in this case, higher electric bills for all Ohioans. There are other factors increasing the price. Demand is definitely up. Data centers, about 200 of them in Ohio, put severe strain on the grid and push prices upward. However, the other factor that is being completely ignored about all these stories are obscene electric utility profits. AEP has made a record $1.2 billion of profit in the first half of 2026. First Energy had less profit, about $700 million, but that was because they made big outlays for infrastructure improvements. Bottom line is Ohio is making the wrong choices when it comes to energy. The result is not just more CO2 going into the atmosphere that is literally killing us and the planet. It is also increasing our electric bills. We are paying more for dirty power that is killing us. Okay, for our next story, we go to Washington, D.C. On August 3rd, Senators Schiff and Whitehouse released a statement saying that they are going to introduce a measure to strike down Trump's gutting of the Endangered Species Act. We reported in the past about Trump issuing an executive order that essentially eliminates the Endangered Species Act because it changes the definition of harm to exclude habitat destruction. Of course, if you destroy the habitat for an endangered species, that species will die. It's a very basic concept in ecological science. Schiff and Whitehouse have written a joint resolution that basically says Congress disapproves of the rules change and it will have no force or effect. The idea that you have to protect the environment in order to protect the species has been around since Nixon signed the Endangered Species Act way back in 1973. Even then, when ecological science was still in its infancy, it was clear that you cannot simply pluck animals out of their environments and expect them to survive or thrive. That assumption was made explicitly clear by the Supreme Court during the Reagan administration. In a ruling, the Supreme Court explicitly spelled out that the Endangered Species Act requires the protection of the habitat where the endangered species live. In the joint resolution, it says protected species need a safe place to eat, sleep, and raise their young. So far, the measure has been read twice on the Senate floor. It has been referred to the Committee on Environment and Public Works. Now that committee is controlled by Republicans. But it is possible that they may still agree to allow the bill to have hearings and be voted on. It's also possible that the committee chair will simply never bring the bill out to the public for hearings, in which case it will die. But the Congress has showed a willingness to quietly reverse some of President Trump's most outrageous proclamations. The Endangered Species Act is almost universally loved, and it's one of the most successful conservation laws in history because once a species is on the endangered species list, we have a higher than 90% success rate in preventing its extinction. If the bill manages to go through the committee hearings, get brought onto the floor for a vote, then it only needs a simple majority to take effect. So it's basically filibuster-proof. Fingers are crossed. For our next story, we go off to sunny California. Our good friend of the show, Dr. Mark Jacobson of Stanford University, has done an analysis of the Diablo nuclear power plant's output. He studied the period from January 2024 to July of 2026. What he found is that Diablo has been wasting its generation because it has been forcing more and more wind and solar off of the grid. When wind and solar could be generating power but are being told not to by the grid operator, that is called curtailment. In April and May of 2026, an amazing 90% of the energy that Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant produced could have been produced by wind and solar, but they were ordered to be shut down. Nuclear power plants are inflexible. They take a long time to ramp up to full power and a long time to ramp back down again. The grid, on the other hand, has constantly fluctuating demand. A hot day with a lot of sunshine can cause a huge surge in demand, while a cool, rainy day might not require as much power. Nuclear power plants, on the other hand, have to run at full power all the time. Wind and solar electricity can very easily turn their generation down or off when it's not needed. The thing is, as we reported earlier, the electricity produced by the nuclear power plant can be up to 7 times more expensive than the electricity being produced by wind and solar. So relying on nuclear power plants raises electric rates for everyone. From January to July of this year, 29% of Diablo's output could have been provided by wind and solar. That is an increase from last year when curtailment was only 19%. Dr. Jacobson points out that the amount of wasted power is going to increase because the amount of installed wind and solar keeps going up. Eventually, we'll get to the point where 100% of Diablo's output could have been met with wind and solar, which instead was forced to sit idle. Dr. Jacobson also points out that the only reason that the Diablo nuclear plant is open today is because of $3.2 billion in subsidies. Those subsidies include $1.1 billion from the federal government that was provided to offset the increased cost to ratepayers. of using expensive nuclear power. Another subsidy was that the state of California recently added over $700 million annually to the electric bills of all the California residents, solely for the purposes of keeping the Diablo Canyon open. Finally, the state of California loaned PG&E, the owner of Diablo Canyon, $1.4 billion to keep it open. It only has to pay back $800 million of that. $600 million it gets to keep. As Dr. Jacobson points out in his books, No Miracles Needed and Still No Miracles Needed, the second book, nuclear power in the time of wind and solar energy development is not only unnecessary, it's actually slowing down the transition to a carbon-free future. Next, we head out to the arid West. Popular Mechanics on August 10th, 2026 ran a story titled Hoover Dam is losing power inside the slowest moving train wreck in history. Lake Powell, which was created by the Glen Canyon Dam, is coming very close to failure. Not failing as in breaking and pouring down the valley, but the opposite. It's coming close to failing because there's not enough water in the reservoir. 3,490 feet above sea level is what's called the minimum power pool for Lake Powell. Below that level, it can no longer generate hydroelectric power. Now, the Glen Canyon Dam has 3 ways for water to exit the dam and flow down the Colorado. The first is through what they call penstocks. The penstocks carry the water down through the dam and through the hydroelectric generating turbines. If the water drops below 3,490 feet, Lake Powell will no longer be able to generate electricity. The dam also has spillways, which could be used to dump excess water, but these have only been used once in history, and the lake is far below that level. The final way that water can exit through the dam is through 4 bypass tunnels. These tunnels actually allow the water to go around the penstocks and directly down into the Colorado River basin. All of which is important because if the water level drops below 3,370 feet, it will be in a state called dead pool. That is, it will be too low to even go out through the bypass tunnels. And at that point, the Colorado River stops flowing. That would lead to the Hoover Dam, which is downstream from the Glen Canyon Dam, in turn, drying up and being unable to generate electricity. The Hoover Dam has already had to curtail its electric generation by 40%. Together, the 2 dams, along with 14 other dams on the Colorado, provide water and electricity to 40 million people. They are on the verge of failing. For our final story, we head off to Spain. The journal Nature.com published a story on August 13th. The title is Persistent Illegal Online Trade and Turtles and Tortoises in Spain. Researchers spent 4 years looking at online advertisements selling turtles and tortoises. It is illegal in Spain to trade in wildlife, whether native or invasive. Also, Spain is a member of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or the CITES Treaty, CITES. What the researchers found was that there has been a definite drop-off in the amount of animals being advertised. When they started researching, 31% of the advertisements online did not mention having a permit. That suggested people were simply going out and catching turtles and tortoises and selling them. They found 58 different species being traded. The most common was the most common were the Testudo Horsfield's D, or Horsfield's tortoise, and the Centrochelts sulcata, whose common name is the African spurred tortoise. The African spurred tortoise is in fact the largest mainland species in the world. They can grow to be 30 inches long and 200 pounds in weight. Of course, these are smaller than the tortoises on the Galapagos Island, but they're still pretty big. Over the course of the study, researchers have found that the number of species advertised has dropped, while the number of ads being placed by professional traders that have permits has increased. They come to the conclusion that it looks like Spain's efforts to crack down on illegal animal trade are working, and that's good news. Well, that's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. Come back next week to hear more of the ecological environmental news that you won't hear anywhere else. This is Rebecca Wood signing off.
I don't want no oil a-spoiling my shoreline. I like fish much better than crud. I like birds and things a-creeping and crawling. Won't trade no more oil for blood. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. No nukes!